Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. And I'm coming to you live from one of the few countries not yet infected by the coronavirus, apparently. I'm betting it's here, actually, but they just haven't had any cases. Anyways, things are going pretty nuts out there. I don't know about these, how efficacious these travel bans are. You know, I'll tend to give President Trump the benefit of the doubt, mind you, but but I'm not too certain that this is really going to be something that will seriously mitigate spread versus harming the economy. It's also screwing up travel plans for a friend of mine. I'm sorry to note that I'm not traveling until later next month, so maybe by then this will be all be over as if by a miracle. And I could be wrong about the efficacy of travel bans. I have a friend of mine that's in the travel business, and another friend of mine who's in the travel business, and he claims that he thinks that they are that this is an efficacious way of dealing with the problem. But yeah, I just don't know. Trying to get this to align right. There we go. Okay, so today I'm going to bring up a topic of, what's the best format of a game for the purpose of serious roleplay. Okay, now not everybody needs serious roleplay. Not everybody wants serious roleplay. But if you want serious roleplay, it seems to me that a lot of the people who claim to really want serious roleplay have been taught completely wrong about it. They've been taught that that an OSR type game is the least serious sort of game for roleplay, when it's actually the most. Not just OSR games, of course, but other rules-like games that don't have social mechanics and don't force you down some kind of story path, right? We have on Twitter a person, a gamer, I assume, a woman, who posted asking, well, is the OSR of any use for people who are really into heavy role playing, right? And so this was, I think it wasn't. I think it was meant as an actual honest question, like is there anything good about the OSR type of question? But it also is revealing of the standard party line that some ridiculous game designers have made, of saying, well, old school games weren't good at role-playing. And what is good at role-playing is either like storytelling games where you have already a predetermined narrative direction, which are not RPGs at all anymore then, because you're not playing in a world, you're just playing in a story. Or games that have complex social mechanics, or for modern D&D players, which I think maybe this young woman was, I think that 5th edition D&D players have fallen into this trap because they've been taught wrong on purpose. They've fallen into this trap of thinking that the kind of adventure path campaign, like the sort of adventures that are now being produced for D&D 5th edition, as well as for Pathfinder and a lot of other modern type of game adventures, you could say, that are really, everything is laid out for you, and your characters are basically moving along a set piece number of possible routes on a story path that you really can't deviate from, or else the whole product is useless, and that it's not open in the same sense that an old school module is open. This is in a way similar. I would say it's similar to video games, but it's not really even similar to what video games now can be. I guess it's similar to some video games, right? Where you're like going around, shooting stuff, blowing things up, and then you get to a set piece where there's like drama, and then you have a mechanical way of resolving what your video game character does or says in that drama, right? Usually like a drop-down menu or something. And this feels pretty much exactly the same. And people think that's the way that you can do serious roleplay in like 5th edition. It's like, oh my god, the Waterdeep book, the Waterdeep campaign adventure thing, path, whatever, right? It's so sophisticated because it's got so much interesting story to it that we walk through and kind of experience and talk about our own backstories in the context of that story. And there's like a gay pride parade going on in Waterdeep, so it's just like being in Seattle, right? Like that's the epitome of what people who have come up in the new school think of as deep role playing. And that's sad, really, because frankly, adventure paths are, they're something for babies, or for special needs people, like they're not something, that's not role playing, that's role playing for dumb kids, right? It's not role playing in any way that's going to actually be a liberating experience of immersion into a living world where you get a real freedom in that world to do whatever you want. And so that was kind of my response to that. My response actually in this conversation with this person was that I pointed out that in my own campaign, what was the Dark Albion campaign, using an OSR system, what was to become Lion and Dragon, I ran a 6-year-long epic saga that, yes, involved there were combats and there were battles and there were adventure, more traditional kind of go kill the monster stuff that happened occasionally. But it was really a 6-year-long epic saga of politics and intrigue and personal ambitions of the player characters in a completely kind of free context of how they can interact with the course of history of the entire War of the Roses, with all of the Shakespearean drama, or if you prefer, Games of Thronesian type drama that you could imagine out of that epic struggle, right, of that world. And the player characters did things that totally surprised me, and I sometimes surprised each other, and sometimes I think even surprised the players themselves, So there was the character that betrayed her family, right? There was another one that had become increasingly disgruntled, a knight that had become increasingly disgruntled with his master, in a lowborn knight, and his master was the Earl of Warwick. And he ends up turning around and raising up a peasant army in a revolt, right? And there was all of this. There were some sessions, of course, that were full of action, but there were also some sessions where almost everything that was going on was the player characters playing in character in different situations, in the court, amongst themselves, on a mission, in terms of priorities that they had created for themselves in the world. That is really deep role playing, right? That is role playing where it gets to the point where your character, especially after you've played him for more than 25 or 26 sessions of, multiple hour sessions, your character is someone you are deeply connected to, but it's not you anymore. It's their own thing. It's a different person from you. And the world has taken on life. And that can only be done in a system where there's not a heavy burden of either lead you by the nose adventures or a set of rules to govern role-playing interactions, okay? Because otherwise, all of that stuff that gets resolved in an OSR game by you trying to become your character and speak in your character's voice and say what your character would say and do what you... take the actions that you say your character would take, instead will get resolved by rolling a bunch of dice. And that becomes much more shallow, right? It just becomes, it's I roll my dice and then that determines that my character ends up succeeding in this debate in the court, right? Instead of having to talk out how the debate in the court goes, right? Pleading for his life or whatever else. Instead of just doing a die roll, it's the character the player having to incarnate his character. And that's a whole other level of role play. So really, only the OSR style of game, I'm not saying just OSR games, because there are other games that are also like that, games that don't have a mechanical component that involves role play. The mistake that new school gamers make in thinking that they need to either have mechanics that govern how they role play or to be led by a nose along a story path, right? Like the story path, someone else, I don't remember who it is, I would otherwise give them credit, but someone else posted a Twitter picture, which showed like on the one side a pile of Legos in a box, right? And it said, "This is the OSR." And on the other one, it showed like those were old school Legos. And then the other side, it showed like a Lego box that has like Pirate Island Lego, where it's like all basically pre-done for you, right? And that's a story path. And so one of those is for the special kids that wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't have enough creativity or intelligence to just grab a bunch of Legos and make something out of that, right? That's the ones that need to be led by the nose. And I think most gamers don't. I think it's a case of some gamers being inexperienced, gaming parties that don't have an experienced DM, or just some gamers not having a lot of time or being lazy or things like that. But if you're really serious about RP, then you've got to get out of that model, that framework of relying on rules in place of roleplay and relying on story paths instead of open sandbox campaigns, where your characters determine where the action goes and the DM has to learn the chops of adjusting to it. Not every DM will be able to do it right away, but it's a learned skill. Anyone can learn to do it over time to a certain degree of adequate, competence. So really think about this, guys, right? If you're a new school gamer and this is the video that you're seeing, it's the first time you've heard any of this, really think about it. Think about breaking down the stupid Pirate Island and figuring out what to do with a bunch of loose Legos and making something for yourself, right? Or playing in an open produced world, right? Like my Dark Albion setting book is an example of that, where I don't tell you, well, here are the adventure paths, right? Or some nonsense like that. I give you the whole damn world. I give you a 35-year timeline. I give you a whole bunch of NPCs that you can use any way you like. And then it's up to you, a bunch of things on magic and monsters and religion and all those things, but then it's up to you how you present this world and where you want your characters to start in. And then it's up to your players to determine where things go from there, and you managing that, instead of leading them by the nose, managing that in the campaign. And of course, it's not just Dark Albion that does that. There's a lot of settings that do that. Most settings for the OSR do that. That's how it's supposed to go. It's supposed to be that the DM creates the world, and it's a living world, and the players become the characters they're playing in that living world, and then you let those characters determine where things go from there, instead of interfering with the world and making it less alive, to lead those characters and their players by the nose to where some predetermined set piece action story is, right? That's not the way to do it. All right, so I guess that's about the brunt of my argument here. If you're interested in the OSR and you like this video, well, first of all, you could check out my products. As you can see, I've got a few of them on the screen here. Dark Albion and Lion and Dragon, and the brand new Old School Companion that's doing really, really well. It's a source book that you can use to bring all kinds of medieval authentic material into your D&D game. But if you don't have enough money to pick up any of these, although most of these are relatively inexpensive, you can also check out the RPG Pundit Presents PDF series. We've got 99 issues out. Number 100 is still coming, guys. I promise. I just wrote to my publisher today. There's been some delays, but it will be coming out. It's going to be big. But there's 99 issues of all kinds of different stuff that you can add to any OSR, any D&D game, pretty much, to have more material, right? So you're giving me a tip, and the PDF, the RPG Pundit Presents PDF is maybe, and depending on the issue, between like $1.99 and $5, right? So it's like you're giving me a Patreon tip, and you're getting something back for it right away that you can pick and choose from, right? There's everything from like weird robot generators to medieval authentic magical grimoires to all kinds of other stuff. Well, take a look and check it out. Monsters, magic, medieval authentic stuff, weird fantasy stuff, all over the place in the 99 issues so far. And I really appreciate that. If you really just want to throw me money, there's also a PayPal and a Patreon link. If you don't need anything in return, then of course you're welcome to do that too. But feel free. I mean, check out the products. They're really good, and it's a great way to support me. But finally, if you got nothing else to do, then and even if you've already patronized me by buying my products, don't forget to subscribe, to like this video, and to share it everywhere you can. Spread the word. Explain to these children who have not learned the secret arts of actual deep immersion role-playing. Teach them that the OSR is the opposite of what they've been taught. They've been taught OSR is a stupid war game. And the OSR doesn't have to be that. Of course, there are some people that all they do with OSR gaming is go into the dungeon, have a crazy, fun, good time of killing stuff in a dungeon. You can definitely do that with an old school game. But you can also do the sort of stuff I was talking about here. And some games, and my games, are made to support that as much as, or maybe a little more than, the doing crazy stuff in a dungeon style, right? Like Lion and Dragon and Dark Albion, Arrows of Indra presents you the whole world of epic mythical India. And again, there's a timeline and all sorts of stuff there, all sorts of cultural details and stuff that you can use to run old school D&D based old school gaming in the world of mythical India during the time of the Mahabharata. So think about that sort of stuff and share this video with people that haven't heard this sort of stuff before, about how you can really take off the baby training wheels and actually do role playing, unhindered. do role playing without your safety harness of the rules or of the pre-written adventure path. And trust me, you'll be better for it. Thank you very much. Currently smoking Lorenzetti Poker plus Argento Natural.